Let's find out which TV is better, the Hisense U7QG or the TCL QM7K. Now here's the remote control that comes with both TVs. This is the TCL remote and this is the Hisense remote. Next, let's get right into the picture test because I know that's the most important thing for you. The TCL is not as bright as the Hisense overall, so I have the brightness at 70, and on the Hisense I have it at 55, so it matches up best as possible. Now the TCL has a movie mode where the Hisense has a theater night and a theater day mode, so I just adjusted the theater night mode. And one thing I can see is that the TCL has really nice warm colors where the Hisense seems to pop a little bit more, especially in this yellow down here. But overall, I think both TVs look good. The TCL is going to have more of a warmer look to it in comparison. And here's another demo for you to check out. Let me go ahead and pause this. And for what I can see, the TCL again has that more flatter look where the Hisense has a little bit more punchier colors. And if you look in the background, you can definitely see this light right here coming in just a little bit more than the TCL. But again, these are settings that you can adjust. I'm just telling you how I see it with these particular demos. And for these demos, I am using Disney Plus, but there's a couple more scenes I want to take a look at. Now, one thing that you notice, both TVs will pop up Dolby Atmos. And again, both TV has that nice warm look to it. Now, you can definitely tell me what you think, but this is what I'm seeing here live. And again, I didn't make any kind of adjustments other than what I just showed you. I will adjust this back, but I'm going to put both TVs in sports mode so we can just look at a couple clips here. And we're going to take the TCL out of the echo mode. So we have the TCL brightness at 70 and the Hisense at 55. Now in this mode, I think the TCL has a more natural look to it. And it's definitely noticed when you look at the skin tones. So if you look at his face right here and right here, this is a lot brighter, but it's not as detailed as the TCL. But all the icons and logos and everything at the bottom seems to be pretty good on both televisions. And here's another scene with the grass. And as you can see, the TCL looks more natural, where the Hisense looks more exaggerated. So I'm gonna have to give it to TCL when it comes to the sports mode on these televisions. Now note here, the Hisense, again, that brightness is sticking out on this television. But again, you lose some details in the process. And here's another demo for you guys. And we can take a look at the yellows on the screen. Again, the TCL also looks smoother as far as the edges. And I would say that the Hisense is doing a great job, but the TCL, in my opinion, is beating it on this particular demo. Now I'm going to pull up some of the demos that I created, but to get the best effects, we're going to go ahead and turn off the light so you can see all the details that I want to show you. First, we're going to look at this blooming test, and the TCL is definitely doing a much better job when it comes to that. And I'm going to crank up my ISO on my camera so you can see. And as you noticed, the TCL with that halo control is doing a better job than the Hisense. Now, the Hisense, again, is still pulling in a little bit brighter screen, but overall, I will say that the TCL is definitely doing a better job when it comes to blooming out of these two TVs. So here's the dirty screen effect on both TVs. I can see a little bit of artifacts here live. TCL, I can see a little bit more right in this area, and Hisense I can see more in this area. And keep in mind, it's not the lens that I'm using on the camera. This is what I actually see here live. But as far as dirty screen effects, both TVs are decent, but no TV is perfect out there. Now let's take a look at some upscaling, and I'm going to play some 480p on both TVs, and they look almost identical. As far as what I see here, the Hisense is just slightly sharper on the logo at the bottom of it. But overall, they look almost identical to me when it comes to this particular demo. Let me pause this scene for you again. And in the background, again, it's kind of blurry on both TVs. And it's mainly because these TVs wasn't made to do 480p content. They was really designed to do 720p and higher. So let's go ahead and play some 720p. Definitely gets a lot better. And one thing I've noticed here is the TCL appears to be a lot more smoother as far as the motion. But we'll get into that in just a minute. But what do you guys think? That's 720p. Let's fast forward a little bit here. And again, they look almost identical as far as upscale on 720p, according to what I can see right now. So here's the 480p content. And just let this play out for a second here. And both TVs are a little bit blurry. I would say that the Hisense appears to be just slightly sharper over the TCL as far as what I can see at the bottom in the 480p. I can just make out the letters a little bit more. And let's go ahead and switch over to 720p because that's more of the native signal that these TVs are designed to do. But 1080p is definitely the sweet spot on pretty much all these TVs. Now I do notice just some slight motion blur on the TCL. Now, I did notice some slight motion blur on the Hisense when this was transitioning. But if you look at these two TVs, again, I feel that they both have a great picture, but I'm seeing a little bit more detail over here on the Hisense. If you look right here on the TCL, out of the two TVs. But it all depends on if you like more of that warmer look or if you like more of that punchier colors. But as far as upscaling, I think both TVs are doing a decent job. And one thing I noticed on the TCL is over in the corner, that's actually doing a little bit better job than the Hisense. So I think you'll be fine either way. Just want to do a comparison here so you can see the differences. And here's a 1080p test. Again, both TVs look pretty much identical. It seems like the TCL has better colors on this one to me. That warm look really bring out the buildings as far as the top of them. And as far as having any kind of jaggedy edges, I don't see that on either TV when it comes to this upscale test. But let's move on. So here's a demo with some black backgrounds on it. And for me, I think both TVs look about the same. The local dimming's working great on both TVs. And on this demo, the pictures look almost identical. So if I was to choose between these two TVs, it would definitely be harder to choose. But I still like the colors a little bit better in some instance than the TCL. Now this is a low bitrate demo, this part right here. And I do notice there's a lot more artifacts on the TCL than the Hisense. Especially, I can see like some artifacts here. There's here on the Hisense, but not as bad. But switching back over to another demo, you can see that it's actually doing pretty good. Some slight halos on the Hisense, but as far as picture quality, they're pretty identical as far as that goes. Just so you guys know, I am using an Apple TV, so let's switch over to some HDR right here. And one thing, the TCL did pop up HDR10 in the corner where the Hisense did not. But now we got that going. Now, because of copyrights, I can't play too much of this, but let's take a quick second. All right, for this settings, I'm just putting both TVs in filmmakers mode. That way we can do a more fair comparison, because if I put it in another settings, then it's not gonna look as good in HDR. The interesting thing about having both of these TVs in filmmakers mode, I think they look very similar. One thing I noticed is that the TCL has better highlights. If you look at her hair, you can see a lot more detail at the top here, where her hair is a little bit darker here. And as far as the background, the TCL has more of that warm look, but you can see those highlights coming out on the TCL so much better than the Hisense in this demo. And this also happens when I switch scenes. Look at the background on the TCL and look at the background on the Hisense. Personally, I didn't think it was gonna be this big a picture difference, but I'm definitely seeing it right here live. And again, I'm not biased to either television. To me, you can buy anything you want. Like, these demos are just to show you the differences. But let's switch it over to IMAX and see if that makes a difference. You can see both TVs at 100% brightness. I didn't go and change the peak values or anything. And again, those highlights on the TCL is definitely popping in comparison. Let's go over to the movie mode on the TCL. And on the Hisense, let's go over to theater mode. Even with these settings, look at the difference there. The TCL is just bringing out a lot more of those shadow details in the background, but the Hisense definitely has a little bit more contrast, but in the process, you're losing those details in that background, as you can see right here. So I must say that I'm very impressed with the colors on the TCL compared to the Hisense. Even though I really love Hisense TVs, this is definitely eye-opening to see the difference between these two televisions on this particular demo. I like to stay non-biased on all my videos. So first of all, we're going to try to bring out some more details on this Hisense. And as you can see here, the local dimming is at high. If I bring it down, it doesn't change anything to help it compete with the TCL. We go into peak brightness. See, it doesn't change anything. And brightness at 50%. Even if I move it up to 100%, it's still not bringing those details that we get on the TCL. We got contrast, black levels. We could try the dark details. Again, it's not doing much for that. We got AI. Still not bringing it out like the TCL. And I will turn off the dynamic tone mapping, and all it does is just make the TV a lot darker. We can also go to HDMI dynamic range, limited, and full. And I'll try to change the color space too to push it out of the HDR mode. And it's still not getting as bright. And as you can see here, between these two TVs, you can see which one is brighter in HDR. And again, if there's a setting that I'm missing, please let me know. But like I say, on all my videos, I stay non-biased because at the end of the day, this is your buying decision, and any type of reviewers shouldn't be able to persuade you one way or another. Seeing what you see is the results. And I'm even going to take it one step further. Here's all the different modes in this TV. So if we put in vivid mode, it gets pretty close to it, but you do lose some details in the skin tones. If we go to standard, you can see it's going to not be as bright in the background. Energy savings, sports. But no matter what I do here, I cannot bring out those details in the background that the TCL has between these two TVs. Now, if you ever want to test your TVs, you can check out these. They're called Spears and Munsell's HDR bench test, and that's where I get these motion tests and everything that I show you on the videos. Now, both of these TVs are in HDR, so I have the TCL in movie mode, and Hisense is on HDR theater. And looking at the motion on these TVs, it appeared that the Hisense looked a lot smoother on this top line. Even on this line right here, you can see the TCL has a little more jaggedy edges as far as the motion. When I pull up the motion settings on these two TVs, you can see that the TCL has limited on the clarity and the Hisense has a lot more options there. And pull up the clarity settings where the motion controls are. You can see in HDR mode, the TCL is a little bit more limited, where the Hisense has the MPEG, motion enhancement, motion clearness, so it has a lot more options. So I'm just going to put TVs back in Rec 709 so we have more options available on both TVs. So far, the Hisense did better in 24 frames per second. Let's check out 60 frames per second. In my opinion, both TVs are doing almost the same job as far as 60 frames per second. So if you watch a lot of movies, it seems like the Hisense is going to be a lot smoother. But if you look at the colors overall, the TCL is going to be much better. So this gets very confusing. Next, let's check out some skin tones. And we'll try the 3x3 matrix. Now here's the skin tone test. And again, both TVs look really good. The TCL is going to have more of that warmer look to it, as you can see, the background. And the Hisense has more of that white look to it. In this particular demo, I think the colors pop a little bit more on the Hisense overall. And now we switched over to everyone together. Again, that color checker appears to look a little bit better on the Hisense to me, but it all depends on the color tones. So if you like that warmer look that TCL has, go for this one. If you like that more whiter look, you can go with the Hisense. And you can definitely change the settings on both televisions, but just want to let you see it with the factory settings in HDR mode. So again, both TVs have really good skin tones overall. For the last part of this video, we'll just do some basic gaming and let you know that both TVs do have a game bar. If you press and hold the three lines on the TCL remote control, you then get this game bar where you have aiming aids, magnification, you have different gaming genres, as well as auto low latency, variable refresh rate, shadow enhancer. And up here you can see the frame counters as well as HDR and all that good stuff. And then the TCL also has this frame counter that you can have floating on the screen and move it around. And this TV does support HGIG, but keep in mind, I'm going through a selector to make both of these TVs match, so that's not going to be available. And you have different themes as well as far as on the screen. On the Hisense TV, there's a game bar over here that you can turn on, and this one still has the frame counter at the top of it, just like the TCL. And then this one has AI game settings. You have different themes, dark settings, your brightness, crosshairs. So you have a few other settings in here, as well as AMD FreeSync Premium Pro, high refresh rate. And this one does have a frame counter as well, as you can see right there. Now you can move that around as well. Now, as far as I can see, this TV doesn't support HGIG. It might be available, but I don't see it here in the menu options. I just loaded up Dirt 5 just so we can see the differences. And one thing I could see when I was loading up is that the TCL seems to have a little bit darker contrast ratios. But let's get this up and running so we can just see how they, all right, they got pretty bright when the game loaded up, but let's go ahead and just play some basic gaming here. Now, one thing I noticed is that the clouds are a little more exaggerated on the Hisense. Let's take a look at these details as I go through here. Now I'm noticing a lot more shadow details on the TCL. And also the sky looks more natural. Seems like the Hisense is a little bit blown out when it comes to the skies. Let me just slow down right here, kind of give you an example. So if you see over here on the TCL, I can still make out the clouds right there, where the Hisense is kind of blurred out. So I seen another review on this and they was kind of saying the same thing, and I'm sitting here witness it live. So it looks like when it comes to the gaming, the TCL is going to do a better job. Not trying to sound biased, but seems like the TCL is beating the Hisense in a lot of categories. So that's some basic gaming on these two televisions. I'm gonna go ahead and stop the car here so you can just take a look at the details and those clouds again. So in my opinion, so far, the TCL is looking pretty good for gaming. Another thing that I noticed here with this scene right here is if you look at the gravel right there compared to here, I can see a lot more light in the TCL as well. And the Hisense is really nice, but it seems like you're losing a lot of details, but you're getting a great TV. If you're a Hisense fan, it's just not appearing to be as clear as the TCL in some aspects. The TCL QM7K. Now, first inputs, you have 2 USBs, Ethernet, and you have 4 HDMIs. Now, 2 of these are 144 Hertz, one of them 60 Hertz, and this one is eARC, so it will have compressed Dolby Atmos, meaning that this is a 60 Hertz port and has a TV tuner and a digital output. Now, over here we have dual subwoofers, and this is by a company called B&O, which makes great audio systems. You can mount it on the wall, and you can see the bass here on the back of it. Now, this TV does have like a Dolby Atmos sound. It's a little bit thicker on it, and you can see it has that checkerboard look. Next, we have the Hisense U7QG. Now, if we go to the inputs, this one does have a USB 3.0. It has 4 HDMI 2.1s, so this is going to give you uncompressed Dolby Atmos. And keep in mind that this TV can go up to 165 Hertz on computers using variable refresh rate. You also have a TV tuner, AV input, headphone jacks, and then it has more, including Ethernet, digital output, and a second USB. Now, this TV does have a subwoofer here on the back of it. It's a single subwoofer, and on the bottom of it, there's the bass on it, and it has some little clips right here so you can do some wire maintenance. But both TVs actually look pretty good as far as the design. Now, one thing you can notice, there is some glare on both of these TVs, but not anything major, and we'll take a look at that in a little bit. But let's take another look at the design. So here's the top of the TCL. It's got the nice border around it, and the Hisense has a nice border around it as well. On the front of the base, one thing that stood out to me is that the Hisense has a shorter base span, where you can see the TCL's right here at the edge. So the base on it is a lot larger. Now, as far as the TCL, we have a B&O logo here on the corner. On the bottom of it, we do have the hands-free Google voice commands, and it has a light on the front of it. And then as far as the Hisense, you do have hands-free Google voice commands down here as well. And one thing I want to point out here is that you can take this base off just by unsnapping it if you need to. Now, keep in mind, both TVs will be just fine, but the TCL is going to stick out a little bit farther because of the base design to keep it stable to your table. And here's a reflection test using a flashlight. And it looks like the TCL has less glare on it than the Hisense. If you look at the center of the flashlight right there. So if you have a lot of lights and windows in your room, the TCL is going to do a better job as far as that's concerned. Now we'll take a look at the viewing angles, and keep in mind we have the TCL over here and the Hisense on this side. And as we switch over to my other camera, let's go and go to the sides. And being that the TCL's VA panels is actually holding up pretty good. So let's go to the other side so we can see how the Hisense compare. And definitely the TCL is beating the Hisense when it comes to the viewing angles, as we can see right here. On this video, we went over a lot of information, and I feel that when it comes to picture quality, overall, I would give it to the TCL, even though the Hisense is just right there. Now, there's a caveat here when it comes to audio. The TCL uses two HDMI 2.1s, two HDMI 2.0s, and one of those 2.0 ports is used for eARC. So if you have a full Dolby Atmos sound system, then you're gonna get compressed sound, where the Hisense has four HDMI 2.1s. And what that means is it's gonna allow 48 gigabytes per second to go over to your sound bar. So this television is gonna give you uncompressed Dolby Atmos. With that being said, I think both TVs are great for anyone who's looking for a new TV. And again, this is a comparison. So if you had these at home, you would not be able to tell a difference because you probably didn't see this video. But I would say I would go either one, TCL for picture quality, Hisense for audio quality, and the picture is still good. With that being said, I want to say that I want to appreciate you guys for subscribing to my channel. This is a new format of making videos, so I'm trying to make them faster, but here's the downside of it. I'm not going to be able to control all the different white levels and things like that. So you did see some scenes that are a little bit more blown out as far as the graphics on the screen, but let me know if you like this format, and I will continue to do videos like this. And I have a lot more TVs that are coming out, so we can definitely get some good reviews out there. Now, one last thing I want to mention is that I do have a new community, and it's called 4ktvchat.com. It goes along with a podcast that I'm working on, and if you guys are interested, click on this link below. You can go sign up. It's free. The benefits to you is that you can upload your TV issues. You can talk about different types of things when it comes to televisions and entertainment. That's all I have on this video. I'm Tech Steve. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.